Good evening and welcome to Hot News. We are live on Pan-African Television. We're also live on Facebook at Pan-African Television. We are live on YouTube at Pan-African Television. You can join in the conversation by sending your views, comments, and contributions on WhatsApp text line displayed on the screen. We'll make a time and read all those out for you. You can as well share the Facebook Live for other people to get an opportunity to watch tonight's edition of the program. My name is Justice Appiah. Well, tonight on Hot News, we are looking at two issues. We are looking at the approval of some $28 million for members of parliament as car loan. You know, when this issue started, Ghanaians have raised a lot of concerns. Ghanaians have spoken against it. And of course, you have some few MPs, coming up with some suggestions, others kicking against the decision to give loans to members of parliament to buy cars and all of that. Well, today, the loan has been approved for the members of parliament, and $28 million has been approved for the members of parliament, which each member of parliament is getting $100,000 for the car. I'll be reading, the story pretty shortly, but we'll also be looking at the spousal, salaries and all of that. You know that, some committee that was set up is said to have presented a report and recommendations to the president forwarded to Parliament. Parliament has approved that the said recommendations, which entails some payment of allowances and salaries to the presidential spouses, as well, they approved it. Unfortunately, some Ghanaians are also raising concerns, and the First Lady Rebecca Akufo-Addo and the Second Lady Mrs. Samira Baumia have all indicated in separate statements that they don't need the money, and even those that were paid to them earlier were going to be refunded. The First Lady has refunded hers. And it has been a topical issue that we are all discussing in the country. But that of the car loan for the members of parliament. Parliament has approved the controversial $28 million loan agreement for members of parliament. Also, $13.36 million has been approved as tax exemption for all MPs and the Council of State to purchase cars. The Minister for Finance, Ken Oforiatta, presented a loan agreement for $28 million to Parliament for the purchase of vehicles for Ghana's legislators. Based on the amount, each of the 275 MPs is expected to receive $100,000 for the purchase of a vehicle. The Finance Minister of the the Finance Committee of the House is expected to consider the loan agreement and report to the House. A similar loan agreement of $3.5 million was also laid before the House to enable the Council of State members to also purchase cars. In both cases, Parliament will bear 60% of the loan cost with the interest, while the beneficiaries cater for just 40%. But this did not resonate well with the majority of Ghanaians, including some members of parliament, who believe it is not appropriate for government to secure funds for MPs to buy official vehicles. The Vice Chairman of Parliament's Finance Committee and MP for Kankwe Central, Patrick Boama, has said if he had his way, he would have asked his colleagues to reject the latest car loan agreement. According to him, the state should rather consider purchasing cars in a pool for MPs to use during their term in office and hand over to their successors when they leave Parliament. Quote, "If I had my way, I would tell my colleagues to reject the facility for the simple reason that all the other arms of government, vehicles are procured for them without going through the process where the media is always on the back of MPs for contracting a loan. North Tongue MP Samuel Okujetua Blackwell has called for an end to the practice where government facilitates loans for MPs. He wants MPs to either go through that process themselves or that the state makes vehicles available for their use as it is done in the case of other public or civil servants. And we'll be getting to that pretty shortly. But let's go and listen to what transpired in Parliament today. Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, Honorable Murtala Mohammed, spoke on the floor of Parliament. Let's go and listen to him. We'll be right.
We shouldn't be pretentious about such admonishment. It shouldn't just come from our lips. We must be seen demonstrating that. If the four-wheel drive is a luxury to some members of parliament, I say that it is not a luxury to others. It is not an idea of us being admonished that we should demonstrate that we love the people of this country. That is our responsibility. Let's see that in our action. But I want to caution myself and caution our colleagues. When the cameras are before you, don't try to play saint. When the cameras are before you, don't try to pretend to be who you are not. Because we know the conduct of everybody. And if we begin to question the conduct of people, I really don't think that that is what the people of this country want. With this, let me challenge you and challenge myself that I agree that we should demand, don't give us any car loan.
Well, that was the Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, Comrade Murtala Mohammed, right there. Why his outburst, he will tell us on the program. We've been joined in the studio by Comrade Murtala Mohammed, Member of Parliament for Tamale Central. Good evening, my brother.
Well, good evening, and good evening to your cherished viewers, and most importantly, the good people of Tamale Central.
Right, right. I'm sure you are coming straight from Parliament.
Yes, I am actually.
Very well.
Let me make this correction. It wasn't an outburst.
It wasn't an outburst.
When you say why the outburst, it's ridiculous.
Well, anyway, it looks more or less like an outburst in a way.
How?
Your expression and everything, your posture in that video.
What was wrong with the expression and the posture?
It's not about, well, anyway, it depends on how anybody sees it, but that's how I see it.
Well, anyway.
Thank you so much for joining.
I won't question how you see things.
Anyway, thank you so much for joining us on Hot News tonight.
Thanks for having me.
$28 million car loan for MPs approved. This has been an issue in this country. A lot of Ghanaians have raised eyebrow on this issue. It seems people are uncomfortable with such loans given to members of parliament to buy cars and all of that. Finally, you have approved it. Does it mean that you have not listened to the plight of Ghanaians and what Ghanaians are saying?
Well, first and foremost, those who know me very well, and I'm going to speak about myself,
right?
Because I'm here in my capacity as Comrade Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed. Of course, I'm an MP representing a constituency,
right?
But you invited me as a member of parliament in a matter of the brouhaha over the vehicles that are provided for members of parliament. Let me state that those who know me very well, they know that I'm not one of the politicians who want to live in luxury. And I'm not just saying it, I demonstrated it. And permit me to state this. When I had the opportunity to represent the people of Nanton constituency as the member of parliament for that constituency, I had the privilege opportunity also to be appointed a deputy minister of state by President Mahama. Let me state without any doubt that as a member of parliament and a deputy minister of state, I lived in a compound house at Caprice for 2 years.
Right.
Show me one single member of parliament and a minister of state who chose not to live in a government bungalow, but live in a compound house. I was living there, lived in that house for 7 years. And so when I became a member of parliament and a deputy minister of state, as far as I'm concerned, nothing changed. I was still the Murtala. I lived there for 2 years. It took the national security to insist I leave that house because they felt that for security reasons, it was not appropriate for me to be there. That is one. As a deputy minister of state and a member of parliament, I never had a driver driving me, whether in Accra or in Tamale. And I never asked the state to pay me any monies because I chose to drive myself. I was entitled to demand that the state pays the money. I never asked. As a deputy minister, I never had a security man following me about, which was a right to have that. And because I chose not to have one, I didn't ask the state to pay me that money. And you remember when we lost power, I said this government owed me a lot of money. But I wasn't interested because it was a decision I took as a member of parliament. As a deputy minister of state, When we came and were given allowances to look for accommodation, I could have used that money, but instead I used it to provide water for the people of Nantong constituency. That was what I did.
Right.
So those who know Mutala very well, they know that I'm not that kind of politicians who want to live in luxury. And I want to put the discussion in context. That is one. Two, as a deputy minister and a member of parliament, those who know me too well, I ride motorbikes in Tamale. When I was contesting the elections, I did largely my campaign on a motorbike, the NDC primaries. Those who know me that too well. But I have seen a lot of hypocrisy, some of the hypocrisy coming from members of parliament.
Who are those members of parliament?
Just allow me to follow. I don't want to personalize this discussion.
Once you have indicated that some members of parliament
I've seen a lot,
exhibited an attitude of hypocrisy.
Yes, I say I've seen a lot.
You must be able to tell.
I've seen a lot.
Members of parliament have done so.
I won't mention any name. I don't want to personalize this discourse. Okay. But I'm telling you, show me one single MP, present or past, who never took the car loan. Interestingly, the two presidents that we have had under, in fact, out of the 4 presidents we have had under the Fourth Republic, 2 were not members of parliament before they became presidents, but 2 were. President Mahama was a member of parliament.
Right.
President Nanado was a member of parliament. They each took the car loan, all of them. They didn't only take the car loan, they defended same. And it is legitimate to do so. The current NDC national chairman and the NDC national secretary have been members of parliament before they took the car loans. The current MPP national chairman has been a member of parliament before he took the car loan. So those who think that taking the car loan defeats the purpose of what social democracy is all about, I think that they need some orientation. Can I finish? Can I finish? Maybe perhaps I should state my position before I talked about all this, so that people don't misconstrue me.
Very well.
I'm not a subscriber for car loans, and I have made my position very clearly. I didn't make the position today. When I was in the CIF Parliament, checking in the archives, I made that position strongly, that I don't think that members of parliament should be given car loans. I made that position very clearly when I was a deputy minister and a member of parliament, that the idea of the president appointing 50 or more than 50% of his ministers from parliament should stop. We should implement the Constitutional Review Commission's work that decouple the legislative arm from the executive arm.
Right.
So if you want to know Mutale's position, I am totally against the car loans. But I am saying, provide us with vehicles and we do the work that is defined by the people of this country. That is my position. But that notwithstanding, I need to put the statement and the analysis in context.
Right.
We have all agreed as a people in this country to charter the path of democracy. We have all agreed that never again should this country be ruled by a military dictator or a tyrant. We have all agreed that we must be ruled by rules and regulations governing the conduct of every single citizen in this country, even the president. That is what we all agreed. Now, having agreed that we want to democratize, democracy comes with some conditions, some responsibilities, and some expectations. Part of those responsibilities are that we have 3 arms of government. We have the executive arm, we have the legislative arm, and we have the judiciary. For the purposes of those who may not appreciate these concepts, the executive, you can say the president and his ministers and deputy ministers or his appointees. The judiciary, you can talk about the chief justice and the court system, more or less. The legislature, you can talk of parliament. The democracy, in a democracy, they are all supposed to have what they call separation of powers and the theory of what? Checks and balances. So that power is not tilted at the disadvantage of one against the other 2. That is why you have to have equal powers. The extent to which each of these arms are given responsibilities, and those responsibilities are defined not by any of them, but they are defined by the people of this country. Okay. In drafting the 1992 Constitution, we didn't have an existing parliament. That was done collectively by the people of this country. The only people who boycotted the drafting of the Constitution was the NPP, because for them, they didn't see how and why they should sit on the same table with farmers and fishermen and uneducated people to draft a constitution. So they boycotted the drafting of the 1992 constitution. And it's not surprising. Even the independence of this country, they voted against it. They voted against the motion of destiny. But that is not what we are looking at today. The constitution of this country was not written by lawyers or members of parliament. The drafting was done through the guidance of people who have legal background, but largely the views of Ghanaians across board. Now, in that constitution, the constitution identified certain people to be people they describe as Article 71 office holders. And if you read the 1992 constitution, you would understand what Article 71 office holders are. Now, all these members of the Article 71 office holders are given some functions to perform. The functions they perform, or if you like, the service they deliver, are services defined by the people of this country. Now, the constitution also recognizes that before they deliver such services, certain conditions must be made available. Certain privileges must be extended to them. And if you read Article 98 of the 1992 Constitution, it talks about things that must be made available for members of parliament to perform that function. People can question the conduct of members of parliament. People can question whether we have been able to play that role very well, and that is legitimate. That is legitimate, to question whether parliamentarians have been able to deliver the mandates for which they were elected as members of parliament. And I will support anybody who is that.
But why can't Ghanaians question?
No, I have never said, don't misrepresent. I have never said anywhere in this that Ghanaians don't have the right.
So what are you driving at?
I am saying that people can question the functions that members of parliament are supposed to do.
What can they not
question? To create the impression that members of parliament don't deserve vehicles. To create the impression, and I have heard people, hold on, to create the impression, I haven't said is the conclusive statement generally by those who do critique of it, but some have gone further to say that members of parliament don't. But the position of many of us is that don't give us loans. Make the vehicles available. If the state decides that we are going to provide members of parliament with cantankerous vehicles, and those cantankerous vehicles can't help them perform the function, I'll be absolutely out for it. I'll be absolutely out for it. Now the question is that those members of Article 71, how come that two of them, the state provide the vehicles for them free, but one, the state says you need to buy the vehicle? And by the way, this idea of 60% paid by the state is not accurate.
What is the accurate?
The government of Ghana enters into a financial arrangement with an international financial institution.
Right.
Government of Ghana is doing that for and on behalf of members of parliament, which by the way is even a challenge, because members of Article 71, those expenses must come from the consolidated fund. Unfortunately, members of parliament always come from the salaries that are paid to us. Now, government of Ghana takes 60% of it dealing with that bank, and then you pay 40%. But at the end of the day, you pay for the entire loan. Now, in any case, in your intro, you claimed that they gave MPs $100,000 to buy vehicles. Nobody sees any money. They tell you identify a company. That company that will deliver the vehicle, the state buys the vehicle for you.
If an MP decides to take the loan, how much money is allotted for that MP to buy the car? You
don't take the money.
Right, but
the value of, let's say, for Toyota Land Cruiser,
right,
the value of a new Toyota Land Cruiser is even more than $100,000. The reason why the $100,000 is pegged is that when the car company is bringing the Land Cruiser, they don't pay duties. So the exemptions of the duties also lead to reduce the amount of money that you otherwise would have paid. If a private citizen wants to go in to buy the same Land Cruiser with the duties therein, that private citizen will pay more than $100,000 for the Land Cruiser. So that point must be made very clearly. So I am saying that why is it that among the Article 71 office holders, it was only one of them who is made to pay for his vehicle. The judiciary, the state provide the vehicle, provide drivers for them, pays by the state, provide fuel for them, pay for the maintenance of the vehicles. So that is why Patrick Buama, by the way, that is his motion. His position is that, and we all agreed with that position.
Right.
That is my position. Don't give us any loan. provide vehicles. However arrangement, the state will provide the vehicles for us to do the work. I'll be out for it. But let me also state, and I said that on the floor today, the vehicle may be seen as a luxury to some members of parliament. But to most members of parliament, it is not a luxury, it's a necessity.
Why did you make that statement?
Fantastic. Fantastic. Do you know that members of parliament, we don't sit on Mondays. We sit on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays. Do you know the reason why we don't sit on Mondays?
Why don't you sit?
Every member of parliament is supposed to visit his constituency every weekend.
Okay.
So the expectation is that on Friday, when we close, Saturday you should all go to your constituencies. Because bills and considerations and everything you do, you must take the views of the people for whom you represent. You are a member of parliament. Now, you are supposed to go there, and on Monday you should be in Accra resting so that you can be very fresh enough to start work again on Tuesday. Now, take an MP. Let me just use like I'm coming from Tamale.
Okay.
It takes about 13 to 15 hours to get to Tamale.
Right.
Now, if I want to go to Tamale via public transport, then I leave Accra in the morning, 7 o'clock. I'll get to Tamale in the evening, sometimes in the night. Now, it means that Saturday would have been used for traveling. Now, take an MP who is from, let's say, Chana Paga constituency, which is a border with Burkina Faso, or the MP for Boku Central, or the MP for Garu Timpani,
right,
or the Laura Nandam, mention those ones, or even Bia East, those far distances. Now, if he travel to Tamale, or Bwali Bombo, or Sona Kalba, if the person travels to Tamale via public transport, he would have spent the whole Saturday going to Tamale. The next day he's supposed to go, he can't leave in the night because of even security issues. He has to wait, then the following morning, he would have spent half of the day, virtually, traveling to his constituency. He has half of the day on Sunday. What work can he do? That is one. Two, take constituencies where you have huge communities, and the communities are so dispersed. I have been an MP of a rural constituency before. Nanton constituency had over 80 communities. 80. And they are so dispersed. Take a constituency like Nyang. My brother, Honorable Aziz, I sometimes, when he was the MP, sympathized with him. Because a part of Nyang constituency is closer to Bumbula. And you cannot use you can't use a saloon car to go to those areas. So that Land Cruiser in this circumstance is not a luxury, but it's a necessity for him to be able to perform that function for which he was elected. If your member of parliament doesn't visit the constituency, that is another matter. That is another matter you must demand. Look, I go to Tamale at least every other week. In fact, it's only this week that I didn't go to Tamale. I go to Tamale virtually every week. So the point I am making is that, yes, I can understand the anger of people. I can understand the frustrations with which people are. But the point is that if that thing is not to be provided, then the state should find a way by which they can provide vehicles for MP to do. And you see, the idea of providing the vehicles in a pool should not only be limited to members of parliament. The executive and the judiciaries too. Let's have a pool of vehicles. If you want to travel to your constituency, you do that. The reason why the state is unwilling to outrightly buy vehicles for members of parliament so that they can move away from this arrangement of loan where you pay for the vehicle as a member of parliament is that the state benefits. Because if the state is buying the vehicle, it means that the state would have to provide the driver and pay the driver. The state will have to provide you with fuel like they provide fuel with other office holders within the Article 71. The state would have to pay for the maintenance of what? Of the vehicle. Are you getting the point?
Right.
That is the crux of the matter. That look, let's provide it. So if you look at it, I can understand people think that, okay, the Land Cruisers are a luxury. Now, if any MP represents your people and you don't frequently visit your constituency, then you may not be fit to represent the people. You need to visit the constituency repeatedly. Now, if you are an MP and then you don't do that. So these are some of the issues we are raising. And my position is that, show me one single MP in this country who hasn't taken advantage of those vehicles. Do you know, when you take the vehicle, you cannot sell it, even after you left parliament. If you want to sell it, then you must as well just give it out. The reason is that, if you have a Land Cruiser, you want to sell it after you have used it for several years, you would have to pay the appropriate duties. Because the Land Cruiser was bought for the purpose of using it to do your work as a member of parliament. So let's get something very clear. The issue is not a luxury, and that is why I started by telling you who I am and those who know me. I'm not a politician who is interested in luxury. But when we look at those qualities, particularly first-timers, if you have a first-timer who has just come to Parliament, and that first-timer needs to be more trouble. If that first-timer is not able to visit his constituency, it's a worry. But you see, Appiah, another issue is that the safety of MPs are very, very important. It costs the state a lot of money to replace an MP. When an MP decides he's no longer going, and there's a by-elections, the state spends millions of cedis in organizing that. May God forbid, if something happens to an MP, the state will spend a lot of money. So what we are simply saying is that as members of the Article 71, treat all of them equally. If you are not giving judiciary judges loan to buy cars, if you are not giving ministers and deputy ministers loans to buy cars, if you are providing vehicles for them to perform the function defined by you, they didn't determine the functions, then you need to provide vehicles for members of parliament and demand that they perform the function for which they were elected.
Right. You have been a member of parliament before.
Yeah.
You are now a member of parliament.
Again, yeah.
This issue of giving loans to members of parliament to buy cars isn't anything new. What has government done specifically on this matter? Just as you are advocating that you see, treat us like you treat the judiciary, treat us like you treat the executive. Don't give us loans. What have you done about it? Parliament.
Good. First and foremost, I've just told you, and those who can check in the archive, I am on record to have spoken against these car loans when I was in Parliament in 2000, between 2013 to 2016. And my position was that the state should provide vehicles for members of parliament to do the work. Don't give us the loan. Provide the vehicles for us. I have also advocated that appointing more than 50% of ministers from parliament, for me, I mean, the Constitutional Review Commission actually recommended that that thing must stop if we really want to have a proper separation of powers, so that you can see the independence of the legislature. I have advocated for that. But I'm saying that the state is unwilling. I have heard people who have argued that yes, people are commenting on this because MPs are paid with our taxes. Is that not the case? Tell me one single public officer who is not paid with our taxes. We are all paid. We all pay taxes. Justice, I pay more taxes than you. Right. You know why? I pay a lot of taxes, just like any other person. Now, what the people of this country demand, which I think is legitimate, is that MPs must be seen performing the functions for which they were elected to perform those functions. The hypocrisy I talked about it is that you find members of parliament who have benefited from the car loans 2 times. And in fact, some of them, and I said it on the floor, spoke with me, Mutala, to buy the car from a particular company less than 2 weeks ago. So if you met me at the coffee shop and you asked me, oh, Honorable Mutala, which company are you buying the car? And I said, I haven't taken a decision. And you said, oh, I think that I should buy it from them. Negotiating for me to buy it, only for you to come out and pay the ostrich. It's hypocrisy. That is the point I am making. That is not comradeship. That is not principled. Let's try to call a spade a spade. And you see, I don't want to personalize this. I think that either we are for it or we are what? Against it. And that has been my position consistently. So don't give us loans. Right. Provided, look, I will be the happiest person. And I've said this when I was the Deputy Minister for Trade, that Kantanka is producing vehicles in this country. As long as we can be confident of the safety of the vehicles, we should provide Kantanka vehicles, not only to members of parliament, to the judiciary, to the executive, to all of us. In that way, we would have empowered Kantanka to produce more vehicles. We would have helped him to expand. He would have created the needed jobs for the people of this country to be able to build and grow the economy. That has been my position. I am not doing this for the public to see me as a saint. I have repeatedly made this position. And that is why I say that I won't sit here and play the ostrich. I won't sit here and pretend to be more saint than my colleagues. I won't do that. So you mean that your colleagues who are against the decision by government giving loans to members of parliament, but I'm also against the decision. So who are those you are referring to as hypocrites? I'm also against the decision of government giving us loans. I'm also against it. But you see, one thing I have learned is that there should be collective responsibility. As remember in the appointment of the ministers, you remember, we had the same discussions here. And I said I made my position very clear. Just the very time the ministers were approved, that I was the first person to speak against the approval, and it was not that I hated any of them. But I sat here and I said that I can't sit here and play the saint. As a member of the NDC in Parliament, I think that I must take a part of the collective blame that our rank and files had for us. I can't sit here and say that because I was against it, but the decision was a decision taken by all of us. So I must not be seen trying to play the ostrich and play the saint. I admitted that collectively we must all take the responsibility shamefully to say that the confidence with which the people of NDC and other people who didn't even belong to the NDC had in the minority, that we failed them. I was against it. I spoke against it. But I could not be insulating myself from the blame. That is how comrades behave. That yes, some of our colleagues did this, but we must all take the collective blame. And that is why I said that all the two past presidents we have had who have been members of parliament took it. That time social democracy was not available. I mean, so I have seen people who try to say that as social democrats we should not do this. Social democrats must be able to work effectively so that there will be social equity, so that there will be fair distribution of resources of the state. But there must be a means through which they can do that work. That means include that they should be mobile. People can, look, I have raised questions about the amount of money. I said that the money, in my opinion, is huge. Could we have had alternative? Instead of spending that money, could we have had other vehicles? Are you getting what I'm saying? Instead of spending that huge sums of money to provide these vehicles for MPs. And I believe that there are several alternatives we have. And those who raise questions about the amount of money, legitimate. But I'm saying that let us not create the impression as if that MPs do not need it, as if that car is a luxury. To many MPs, particularly first-timers, it is not a luxury. I have a vehicle with which I go to Parliament with. Some of our colleagues don't have. Is it just about me? No.
So does this not find expression in some of the concerns raised by Ghanaians that, look, first-time MPs could be given such loans to be able to get their own cars, so they could be, you know, mobile and all of that. Somebody who has been in Parliament for 4 consecutive terms. I mean, why should a person be given loans every beginning of every
They call it a loan. You have the choice not to take the loan. All of us, the 275 members of Parliament, they are deducting from our money. Those who pretend to be so sinful, they are deducting their monies for the loan. Why is it that they haven't protested? Does it make sense? If you think that taking this car loan is unquestionable, yet you haven't protested why they are deducted. So what it simply means is that you want to take the loan. Because if I don't want the loan, if I think that the car loan is unquestionable, then I would have written to Parliament that don't make that deduction. All of us, the 275 members of Parliament, the deduction is ongoing. Now, why would you accept such deductions? When you don't want it, then you would have said, don't deduct, so that pay me my money fully. So if I don't want the car, I would say that don't have any deduction. But all of us, yet some will create the impression as if they are so sinful that they are against it, yet they haven't protested against the deduction. I mean, these are some of the things we are looking at. So I'm saying that government should provide a pool of vehicles. I would be the happiest person. And that's why I'm challenging your viewers. They can go through the archive. I'm not making this position today. My position has been that let's get, in fact, there was a time I participated in one of the exhibitions of Kantanka, then as a deputy minister of state, and I insisted that if government could provide those vehicles for members of parliament and the executive, His Excellency, the former minister of blessed, former vice president of blessed memory, His Excellency Mr. Asata, was driving Kantanka's vehicle. So if the vice president could drive Kantanka's vehicle, I believe the members of parliament who could also drive those Kantanka vehicles. So if the state decides that we are not going to provide land cruisers for you, there are alternatives that we can provide vehicles that are robust, that can help you to do the work we expect you to do. The state can decide to do that, and I'll be out all for it. What I'm also simply saying is that people can question whether we have been able to deliver the service for which those privileges are extended to us. People can question that, and it is legitimate. So if you have an MP who doesn't go to his constituency, the constituency, there are laid down rules and regulations that the constituents can take against such an MP. You know, so if you look at MPs whose constituency are so dispersed, very dispersed, and not much, I've heard people who have argued that, yes, then we should be fixing those rules. Fantastic, I agree with those who are making that argument. But until the rules are fixed, people expect that the MPs should visit the constituencies. Until the rules are fixed, people are expected the MPs to do ABCD. Are the MPs doing those things? If they are not doing those things, there are means by which MPs can be dealt with because they are not, living up to their responsibilities. So this has been the consistent opposition of some of us, the position of some of us, consistently.
Okay. There's a statement that has been attributed to you right here, and the statement says, and I think you've reiterated that on the program. It says, since when did he realize that taking the car is unconscionable? He has gotten 2 cars and a new MP who is coming, who doesn't even have a motorbike, whose constituency is farther than his, whose constituency is broader than his, who also needs to discharge his responsibilities by being mobile. Such an MP should not be given a car. Let us get serious in this country. This is not a principle. Then he should return the other 2 cars. Did you say this?
But that statement is wholly not true.
Okay. So what exactly did you say then?
I mean, the argument I have made, and once again, I want to resist the temptation to go personal on this. It's not a personal matter. This is a matter.
If you care to see where it is coming from, I can show it to you.
Yes, I'm saying that.
Fantastic.
Yes,
and you've seen where that's coming from.
Yes, I'm saying that.
So
I'm saying that.
Tell us, what exactly did you say?
I'm saying that first and foremost, I don't want to personalize it. Comrades don't personalize.
Well, I was about to ask you, who are you saying that? Who did you refer to in that statement?
Comrades don't personalize.
Right.
What is important is argument. Is argument that challenge each other. I get what I'm saying.
Right.
My point was just simple, and I reiterated same. Look, if I have a choice, if they say that, okay, the state can provide, let's say, 100 vehicles for 100 MPs, Appiah, I'll be the first person to say that, don't provide for me, provide for new MPs whose constituencies are more further and dispersed than mine. I would have that sacrifice. And I've told you that people should go through the archives.
Right.
This position has been the consistent position I have had. And I have indeed, you see, the reason why I was talking about me and the kinds of things I did and those who know me is just to put in context so that people would understand the angle from which I am making my persuasive point that yes, Ghanaians are justified to be angry under the circumstances. Ghanaians are angry because that money is huge. I have questioned the total amount of money. Because if you divide the 28 million by 275, it will give you more than even $100,000 each. I have questioned that. And those who question that, I absolutely agree with them. But I'm saying that it may be a luxury to MPs who live in the cities. But MPs who live in rural areas that are so dispersed.
But come on, you cannot. And there's no way you can convince the ordinary Ghanaian that driving in a V8 is not a luxury.
No, I'm saying that to many it's not a luxury. You know why it is not
in
a
your
luxury?
Context, you may say that that is a necessity.
The reason why I say it's not a luxury is that I have also told you, if the state decides that we are not providing you with V8, we are providing you with other vehicles that can still perform the function of V8, that will be perfect. So let us not reduce it to V8. Some have decided not to take V8.
So if the loans given to you, but wait a minute, if the loans given to you,
they are not giving you even the money. The loan is given in your name.
I'm saying that if the loans given to you in your name, is meant for just a saloon car, would you, the members of parliament, have accepted it? The money they give you the total amount of money, and that total amount of money, you must buy a vehicle with which you do the work. Some have decided that no, in my constituency, I don't need a Land Cruiser, I need saloon cars. And with saloon cars, I'll be able to deliver the same purpose. Take, for example, Tamale Central, for example. Apart from the distance that I would have to travel from Accra to Tamale, within Tamale Central, I may not necessarily need a Land Cruiser to be able to do the work that I would do. A saloon car will be enough for me to do that purpose. That loan is your choice. You can decide that I don't want the loan. So Parliament don't do the deductions.
Do you know the deductions have started?
Right, I know.
So you can decide that. So if you don't want it, why do you allow the deductions to be done? You can decide that I want pickups. In fact, I know MPs who have decided that instead of buying a Land Cruiser, they want to buy about 2 pickups. Because the 2 pickups may have a very huge work to be done in their constituencies. So some have done that. But it's a loan that you are not being forced to take. Government is not forcing you to take that loan. If you choose, then I said, I don't need the loan. I have vehicles at my disposal already, so I don't need a loan. That is fine. But some don't have. And it doesn't mean that when you are poor, you don't need to be in parliament.
Oh, I know you.
Yeah.
You are my friend. Yeah. I know you have vehicles already. Okay. Are you taking the loan?
How many vehicles have you seen me driven in Accra? Is it not a saloon car?
Oh, well, I don't want to give out that information.
No, you need to.
I know that you have.
Hold on. You need to. I don't want us to sit here and it's like, you have seen me.
Oh, I saw you. I saw you drive a Land Cruiser
before.
I saw you drive.
Okay.
A Honda. Honda Civic.
Apart from that, have you seen me driving?
Those 2 cars are cars.
Hold on. I am saying that hardly would you find me drive a Land Cruiser in Accra. You know why? If you see me driving a Land Cruiser in Accra, then it means that maybe that day I just feel that I must drive the Land Cruiser. Because the fuel consumption of a Land Cruiser driving in Accra, for me, is unacceptable. Mostly, if you want to admit for your view...
You did not answer my question whether or not you are taking the loan.
I am. Right. I'm not a hypocrite. I've told you.
Are the 2 cars not enough?
I have told you.
To go about your duties as a member of parliament.
I have told you repeatedly.
Right.
That yes, I am taking that loan. I have chosen to take the loan, for which reason the deductions have been done in my salary. They started the deductions.
But you are saying that it is optional.
Yeah, that's what I have chosen.
When it is that Appiah, anybody at all would have expected that once you already have cars,
Appiah, when it is optional,
that would make you mobile. Appiah, why do you still have to go for them? Why did you go for them?
How many dresses do you have?
A lot.
Why do you have a lot? Can't you be wearing just 2? The fact that you have 2, but you decide because you feel that it's a need. I may have a car, and I feel that if I have another car, it serves a purpose. And besides, that car is not given to me free. It's a loan. I am paying for the loan. And my point is that if you are a member of parliament and you don't want the loan you are going to pay, and you started paying. If you don't want it, just tell parliament, I don't want you to deduct anything from my salary. I don't want to take the loan. But they can't be deducting your salary because you are taking the loan, and you create the impression as if you are not taking it. That is the point I am making. A loan is optional, and I've indicated that they are not forcing anybody to take that loan. They are not forcing anybody. I can choose to decide that, okay, the loan I'm taking, good. The loan is not even given to your constituent. It's you. You, the MP.
Right.
They are deducting it from your salary. So it's an opportunity cost. You must go some. It's the alternative for one. That, okay, I don't want the loan to be taken. I want you to pay me my full salary so that I can do things that are supposed to be done. Your common fund, and I have said it repeatedly, that common fund for you, the MP, is not meant for you to chop. That common fund is meant for you to execute projects, for you to do something in your constituency. Appiah, as we sit today, Justice, I have classes that I have organized in Tamale Central. I have organized the classes in 4 centers. I am paying the teachers. You know the classes. Okay. I'm not paying it from common fund. I have dug so far 24 boreholes, mechanized boreholes in Tamale Central. The entire 4 years common fund will not be able to pay for it. That is what I have done because under the circumstance, there is huge water shortage in Tamale. Huge. Then when there is huge water shortage in Tamale, and as the people representative, if I would have to use even my car loan part of it, assuming, to provide that, that is what I would do. Ramadan, our colleague says that he is using it to buy a grader because there are several roads in his constituencies that have not been fixed. That money is his loan. The loan is not given to the constituency, it's given to you, the member of parliament. And for which reason, the salaries you would have been earning, the salaries that is legitimate yours, is being deducted. I think that's what I'm saying.
Right.
All those, and look, just last 2 weeks, I went to Tamale, there was this weather storm, the rains. 2 schools had some of their roofs ripped off.
Yeah.
I had to mobilize my own money. In fact, to be very honest with you, that man's salary, virtually at the expense of my children's school fees, I bought that zinc for those schools. Because I can explain to the administrators of my school, I will pay them money. But in the meantime, the hundreds of students in my constituency will be denied the opportunity that my children have. Now, if I have the opportunity to be able to explain to the proprietors of my school and say that, okay, I will pay, but give me some time. Because I had to use that money to buy zinc so that other people's kids can be taught in an environment that is conducive. That money is not coming from my common fund. The free classes that I am doing and for which reason the teachers are paid is not coming from my common fund. Justice, I am on record to have sold my land, and I have said it. If you are going to the airport from Tamale, it was 1 acre land with 1.5 with over 6,000 blocks in it. A commercial land I bought before I became an MP. I sold it to provide non-profit microfinance for women in Nanton constituency. So if you want to be an MP, then you should be prepared to sacrifice. And I've heard people who say that MPs are not forced to go to parliament. But some people must be MPs for the purposes of implementing the democracy that we have all agreed collectively to practice. Some people must be MPs. So if you are an MP, and I agree absolutely with some of the comments that were made on the floor, an MP is not to make money. It is not to enrich yourself. And as a Muslim, when you take a dime that belongs to society and spend that money, you will account for that money on the day of judgment. So if they give you common fund as a member of parliament and you think that you can spend it, be told that there will be a day of reckoning. There will be a day that you will have to account to your creator. That money is even dangerous to spend. You are not accounting to just one person. You are accounting to all the people in the constituency. What is yours is your salary. But in this case, some of us are even spending what is legitimately our salary in the constituency. Because what pleases some of us is not just to represent, so that one day people can look at the things you did and said you did something. Go to Nanton constituency, and I challenge your media house to go there. My footprint, over 80 communities. Not a single community will you go and I haven't done something in that community. Calculate the market value of all the things I did and know how much I was due me as common fund. It won't do it because you need to sacrifice. And doing that as a Muslim, I am getting reward. These classes you are doing and justice. It is not just only the classes. All the students who are participating in that classes, I have promised that before they write the exam, we are running it up to November. I'm going to give every single student a mathematical set, and I'm going to give every single student TNT for the number of days they are going to write the exams. This is what I intend to do, and inshallah I will do that. So I'm saying that these vehicles is a loan. If you don't want it, don't take it. But to create the impression as if MPs are undeserving of vehicles that will ensure their mobility, I don't think it's fair. Let's question the total amount of money. Let's question the vehicles that are provided to them. But let's demand that, right, with all the privileges extended to you as a member of parliament, account for the purpose for which you were elected by your people.
Comrade, this statement has been attributed to your own colleague, Sam Okujetua Blakwa.
Yeah.
And it says, glad we made major progress today. In fact, he posted that on Twitter also. And he says, glad we made major progress today in our effort to have Parliament reject the $28 million MP's car loan facility. Really elated that my colleague NPP MP Patrick Boama and I co-sponsored a private members' motion which the retired Honourable Speaker admitted for urgent debate.
First and foremost, the motion.
Do you agree with your colleague?
First and foremost, the motion was Patrick's motion. And two, I have had some discussions with Patrick. Okay. Patrick's position resonated with the position almost every MP has.
Isn't the same position?
I'm saying that Patrick's
Honourable
first and foremost, Patrick's position resonated with the positions I've just espoused here. Patrick's position is that we don't need that car loan. Provide us with what? With vehicles. That has been the position. And in any case, nobody differed from that particular position. Repeatedly. I think that for principle, if I'm against this car loan, whether that thing has been taken off or not, I would demand that that deduction in my allowance, my salary shouldn't have happened in the first place. I would demand. I am resisting the temptation to be personal in this matter. I think that principles do not change, opinions change. Principles do not change. And that is why I said, if people were negotiating for people to purchase the vehicles from certain companies, why would they turn around and try to plead the same?
Who are those people?
I don't want to go there. I think that the word spoken in silence will get to its intended ear. The negotiation was not done through me. Someone spoke with me to buy it from a particular company. So sometimes when we get this, you can't remain
somebody who is against this move.
Everybody is against the loan. Everybody in parliament is against the loan. You are forcing me. I won't do that. I'm smarter than what you want me to do. I am saying that it wasn't that a third party, me. Someone spoke with me to buy it from a particular company. So I'm saying,
what's wrong with somebody, a colleague comes to you?
So if a colleague is negotiating, from a company, then let me see consistency. Because if I'm against something,
but you are all against it. Are you not all against it?
So that is why I don't create the.
You are all against it, and you are taking the loan.
I'm saying that if I'm not a hypocrite, I have told you.
You are against it, and you are taking it.
I have told you.
How different is somebody against it asking you to purchase the car from a certain company?
I am not a hypocrite. I am saying that the position has always been that. And my position has been consistent. Don't give us car loans. Provide the vehicles for us. But I'm saying under the circumstance, people must be mobile. People must discharge that responsibility. And if we read the position of the committee says that we don't need the car loans. That has been the position. Provide the vehicles for us. I am saying, if I come out publicly and describe the car loan as unconscionable, when in less than 2 weeks ago, I was negotiating someone to buy it from a particular company, am I being principled? No. I am saying that it wasn't a third party, me, at the coffee shop. So when you tell me at the coffee shop, comrade, I would want you to buy it from this company, why would you want me if you think it's unconscionable? So if you turn around and describe that unconscionable, I would have a problem. And that is why I can't be silent in this matter. If I was against it, first and foremost, I would demand that don't do the deduction. I don't want the deduction because I'm against it. I will not tell someone to buy it from a particular company when I know that it's unconscionable. That is the point. Let's be very principled.
Who is this person you cannot mention?
Maybe it's you. Or your incarnate in parliament.
I'm not a member of parliament.
Well, perhaps I have just told you. I won't do that. I don't want to be personal in this matter. You invited me for us to discuss the car loan and the illegal money that is given. You didn't invite me to talk about who said what and who didn't say what.
Let's use that is not the reason why you discuss. I mean, the presidential spousal, salaries and allowances. We will come back to the car loans because investigations will conduct into persons who are against it and persons who, persons who say it is unconscionable, yet they are asking people to purchase it from a particular, car company and all of that. We will come to that, but now let's wrap up with, the allowances and salaries approved by Parliament, to be paid presidential spouses. Why did Parliament approve that in the first place? You had every opportunity not to approve that. You have approved it, and now it has become a problem. I mean, the talk of day.
First and foremost, I was not in the 7th Parliament.
I know.
But I see the hands that the NDC never approved the spousal, whatever. The NDC never approved it. We have, once again, the Article 71 office holders. And every 4 years, a committee is set to look at the emoluments and conditions of members of Article 71. Now you have the Ntiamoa committee, which was set up to do that. The Ntiamoa committee engaged in something that I describe as unconstitutional.
What is that?
If you are a committee to review the salaries and emoluments of Article 71 office holders, the spouses of the president and the vice president are not members of the Article 71.
Right.
So to review salaries and emoluments of Article 71 office holders, and you bring in the spouses of these people, is completely illegal. That is the point. 2, then we must as well take into consideration the wives of the speaker, the wives of the chief justice and the justices of the superior court, and the wives of members of parliament. The people of this country elected...
briefly, Farah, kindly give me 10 minutes to wrap up on the 10 minutes only to wrap up on this problem.
So the people of this country, the people of this country elected the president, and the president elected the vice president by virtue of the fact that the president was elected. So their spouses are not members of the Article 71.
Right.
The NDC
but I'm not sure the committee has recommended that they are captured under Article 71.
No, in the first place, it's the salary. Nobody has any problem with the allowances that are paid to them. The allowances have been an arrangement that is done, payable to them through the office of the chief of staff. I've heard people who are arguing that then Lordina Mahama should pay back the monies. Lordina Mahama took allowances just like Teresa Kufuor, just like Nana Kwenedu. Those were allowances. Ghanaians are not talking about the allowance. Ghanaians are saying to regularize that allowances and make it a salary, then it means that there must be some questions to answer. In this program, we just question the conduct of Parliament and these curtains.
Right.
Parliament are supposed to be accountable to the people. The president, the vice president are accountable to the people of this country. The first lady and the second lady are not accountable to us. Now you have the current first lady, who had issued a statement that is a charade of sincerity. The statement she issued, pregnant with untruths. In the statement she stated that the decision to regularize the allowances to salary was a bipartisan decision.
Isn't it a
that is not true.
Decision?
When we say something is bipartisan, it means that all the parties in parliament in this circumstance agreed.
Did they not agree?
No.
How did they approve it?
You had over 100-page document. The NDC raised objection of the inclusion of the first lady and the second lady in that over 100-page document. The NPP insisted and voted and won. The NDC voted against it. So you cannot say it's a bipartisan.
Are you saying that
what you can say,
parliament where NDC had 106 members of parliament, they all voted against it?
The NDC was against it. You
mean that all the 106?
Of course, if you have your leaders.
Voted against
yes, if you have your leaders. What happens is that if your leadership stands and says that this is the position of the minority, and nobody raises an objection, then that is the position of the minority.
Right.
Honorable Mutaka raises objection that don't include it. So for the first lady's office to issue a statement and says it was a bipartisan, that is not true. It means that that statement she issued should be treated with the contempt it deserves. Again, when she talked, the computation as to how much she has received was done by her. The Auditor General should do that. In any case, it is not just about the GMPC money that was given to her. The Rebecca Foundation, some of her projects were financed by NAM1. The monies of vulnerable citizens of this country, some of whom have lost their lives because they were defrauded by NAM1. Those fraudulent monies, that was a defrauding of those individuals by NAM1, were used to finance some of her projects. Then she should return those monies.
I've only pleaded for 10 minutes, but look, the president and the vice president are Article 71 office holders. They are captured clearly under Article 71.
Okay.
Now, I feel that the commission says the allowances that were to be regularized, I'm talking about the presidential spousal allowances,
they should regularize it,
should be done and captured as privileges enjoyed by the president.
Is the speaker a member of the Article 71 or not?
Right, he is.
Is the justices of the Supreme Court members of the Article 71 or not?
Well, of course.
Are members of parliament members of the Article 71 or not?
They are.
So what is good for the goose? Should it be good for the gander?
Except that their wives are not paid any allowances by the state. So that needs to be regularized.
So I have an issue. Those allowances itself were unfair. If you read the TUC's statement, TUC says that, look, they are reminding the president that in determining the allowances, you should take into consideration other members of the Article 71 They made reference to the Speaker. They made reference to the justices of the Supreme Court.
I don't want us to go into the historical antecedent of these allowances and all that.
That payment itself was wrong. That payment was unacceptable. If the president's wife or the vice president's wife wants to help them, they can help them. The people of this country pay salaries to presidents and the vice president and members of parliament because you have a responsibility. That responsibility is determined by the people of this country, and you are accountable to the people of this country. So my simple question to Madam Rebecca is that she should return Namwan's money also to the vulnerable Ghanaians who were defrauded. Some of them lost their lives. Some of them, their children's educations have been truncated. The money should be returned. It's not only the money that she did her own computation. And in fact, the minority couldn't have captured it perfectly than what the deputy leader said, who is also a chairman of a committee, I said the Public Accounts Committee, that we will be writing to the Auditor General to indeed audit the accounts of the First Lady. So she took those monies, she never spent them for 5 years, getting to 6 years. He returned them. That story can only be told to the Marines.
Isn't that possible?
How possible is it? The monies are given to you to be spent, and nobody asks her.
Everybody decides what he or she, you know.
Do you know the people of this country?
That's with her money.
Do you know the people of this country didn't even know that those salaries have been paid? Do you know that? Everybody, when the debate came, everybody was talking about the allowance, the salary, the fact that it shouldn't be done. Nobody raised questions about the allowances. So if the MPP are now so obsessed with Lordina Mahama, then Teresa Kufuor should return all the money she took. Then Nana Kwenedu should return all the money she took.
But you just sat here, talked about the fact that the payment of those allowances are not right in the first place. If we all agree that those payments of those allowances are not right in the first place, then why then
the people of this country,
Mrs. Lordina Mahama and the other first and second ladies,
the people of this country, as far as I'm concerned, and in this debate, never raised questions about the arrangement that was done.
Right.
I believe that the arrangement would have been done with some wisdom. Nobody raised questions about the arrangement of allowances given to Lordina Mahama, to Teresa Kufuor, to Nana Kwenedu.
Right.
The problem has to do with the salary. The problem has to do with paying them salary and backdating that salary. That is where the problem is. Okay. So for Her Excellency Rebecca Akufo-Addo to say that I am returning that money, creating the impression to the people of this country, she is so concerned about the people, yet you receive money from Namwan. Money, people's sweat. Some people have lost their lives as a result of that. The GMPC is another issue. There are several opportunities that are available. If I'm going to campaign and my wife follows me to campaign, that is my responsibility,
right?
Not the responsibility of the people of this country, for which reason I will be demanding that my wife be paid.
We need to get going. Kindly step down for me properly. So
what I'm just saying that, look, I can understand the anger, the frustrations of the people of this country.
Right.
And we absolutely agree. But what I'm simply saying is that let us all decide as a people that now we think that land cruisers provided to members of parliament. Let's find other alternative means by which members of parliament can discharge their responsibilities. Let's all do that, and that has been the consistent position. But I'm saying that as politicians, when cameras are before you, try to be very honest. You see, don't want to appear a saint when you can't appear a saint because you are an accomplice in the decisions that have been taken, for which reason Ghanaians have expressed revulsion over it. Let us also ask that if we are providing vehicles in a pool for all members of parliament, we must do same to the executive, we must do same to the legislative arm. People can question whether members of parliament have been able to deliver the services that are expected of us. If people are not delivering that, people have the right to question those things.
Right.
But you know why, Appiah? I know that sometimes certain positions may not be popular. I know, but we must be courageous enough to speak our mind in matters that we feel strongly about. And in speaking our mind, we must be very clear in our mind that you are speaking the truth. That is the challenge. Some members of parliament come to parliament to use an Uber. And that is why I have said, if parliament decides that we cannot afford, government decides we can't afford to buy 275 give you loan for 275 MPs. Some must sacrifice for maybe a year for others. I will be the first person to make that sacrifice. I will be the first person.
Right.
But as long as it remains a loan, if I choose to take the loan, that is my prerogative. If I don't want to take the loan, that is another matter.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Comrade, for coming. Let me take a few of our messages and wrap up. This one says, I'm not surprised both sides will benefit, so no long talk. Go for more loans, Ghanaians will pay. From Anefi in Tamale Central constituency. Thank you so much. It looks as if your constituency is not too happy about the loans given to you. Good evening.
Why? That is why he's not happy.
That is why I respect Murtala. He is not afraid of any truth. Honorable Blakwa didn't know the car loan was bad when he took it for 2 times. Why is he always behaving that way? He should give us a break. Prof. Wak in Tamale. Unfortunately, Honorable Murtala Mohammed did not mention anybody's name. I pushed him on several occasions to tell us who he was referring to, but he didn't tell us. Correct cause Zakaria in Sunyani says, I remember Namwan gave Rebecca Foundation $1 million. Nanado have been paid for 5 years. What have you done with your salary that Rebecca cannot siphon? Come on, stop embezzling state funds. Ghanaians are suffering, and that's not what you promised. Nanado and his MPP only came to wonders, one bathing in the air. Pay First Lady Rebecca and Samira, his 3 daughters, my sister's keeper. They are just wasting public purse. No hospital, no senior high school, no nursing training college, no university, no market. Nanado MPP is a scam. Thank you so much for your message. This one says, we have a very big problem in Ghana, and our big men don't want to tell the truth. Ghanaians won't post too much in this country. Day in, day out, we hear about Commander-in-Chief, Director of Operations, and so on.
And
my question is, what are they commanding and directing? There's something fundamentally wrong with our security system in this country. I'm really disappointed in the security system in Ghana. From James K. Saba. Unfortunately, I cannot read your messages anymore. I would have loved to read a lot more, but I have lots of messages over here. Kindly forgive me for not being able to read it. Comrade, thank you so much for coming. We are so grateful for your time. The show has been hot news.
Maybe we have to start calling you Honorable Justice Appiah.
Unfortunately,
in this country, everybody wants the title.
Oh, not at all. When it gets there, probably I may be called Honorable, but assistants are...
You can take my Honorable.
I'm a comrade, unfortunately. I'm a comrade. This is what time allows on the program. We get time with that same time next week. My name once again is Justice Appiah. Goodbye.